There are moments in life when the simplest exchanges feel strangely heavy, as if the words themselves carry no meaning yet demand energy all the same. In those moments, one begins to understand a quiet truth about human nature. Not every soul is designed to thrive in the shallow spaces where conversations skim the surface. Some minds are wired to seek depth the way roots seek water, unable to feel nourished by anything that remains too close to the sunlit topsoil. For them, the world's usual rhythm of polite greetings and predictable remarks feels like a language spoken without intention. And this silent mismatch gives birth to a unique emotional experience, the quiet discomfort of small talk. It is not the words themselves that create resistance, but the emptiness beneath them. There exists an entire spectrum of minds who feel drained by exchanges that serve only as social placeholders, carrying no emotional weight and offering no meaningful bridge between two human beings. Such people experience a peculiar tension in these moments, a sense of being present yet disconnected, as though their thoughts are wandering somewhere deeper while their voice remains trapped on the surface. They are not cold, distant, or uninterested in others. Rather, they are compelled by the desire for sincerity, substance, and truth. Small talk, by its nature, cannot offer that. There is a simple reason why such individuals step back from superficial conversation. The mind instinctively protects its energy from being spent on interactions that fail to create genuine connection. In many ways, it is an invisible boundary. Some people require emotional grounding before they can open themselves, and small talk acts like loose soil that their inner roots cannot grip. It is not social anxiety nor a rejection of human interaction. It is a craving for clarity, a longing for conversations that expose the human condition rather than conceal it behind rehearsed niceties. At the heart of this lies a psychological rhythm. Human minds vary in the tempo at which they experience emotion, reflection, and connection. Those who dislike small talk often move through life with a contemplative pace, observing the world not only as it is but as it feels. They notice the subtle shifts between moments, the undercurrents beneath words, the quiet truths people carry but rarely express. For them, authenticity is not optional. It is the very foundation of meaningful communication. And because small talk seldom reaches that foundation, it feels like wading through shallow water while longing for the deeper ocean. There is comfort in depth for these individuals, not because they seek heaviness, but because depth provides coherence. When conversations explore real fears, real dreams, or real reflections, something inside them aligns. The mind settles, the heart opens. Silence becomes peaceful rather than awkward. But when interactions revolve around empty patterns, something inside remains restless. The person may smile, nod, answer politely, but internally they drift away, feeling a sense of emotional dislocation that is hard to articulate. This aversion toward the superficial is not a rejection of people. It is a rejection of emotional distance. Small talk at its core is a performance, a gentle social ritual that maintains harmony and avoids discomfort. But those who dislike it often yearn for experiences that break the performance and reveal the authentic self beneath. They seek moments where words are chosen not to fill silence but to share truth. And in a world that frequently trains people to hide behind polite conversation, this desire can make them feel out of place. It is common for such individuals to be misunderstood. Others may assume they are shy, antisocial, or guarded when in reality they are simply attentive to the emotional quality of interactions. Small talk feels like static noise to them, not harmful but not meaningful either. Their minds naturally gravitate toward understanding, exploring, and connecting. And when this impulse is restrained by surface-level exchanges, they feel confined. This is why they may fall silent in casual environments but come alive when conversations shift toward purpose, introspection, or authenticity. Their silence is not emptiness. It is potential waiting for resonance. Psychologically, the aversion to small talk is often rooted in depth-oriented cognition. Such minds analyze and process information on multiple layers, moving naturally from observation to reflection to interpretation. They look for patterns in human behavior, meaning in shared experiences, and understanding in emotion. When conversation remains on the surface, the depth-oriented mind has nothing to grasp. It feels like being given an empty cup when one is thirsty for substance. And so the person withdraws not out of disinterest, but because they cannot find the nourishment they seek. There's also a subtle emotional vulnerability in those who dislike small talk. Their preference for deeper conversation means they value honesty, openness, and emotional clarity. But in a world where people often hide behind small talk to avoid vulnerability, these individuals may feel like outsiders. They navigate social spaces with a heightened sense of emotional integrity, hoping for even a brief moment of genuine connection. And when they sense that the person in front of them is merely performing politeness, the interaction loses meaning. They do not resent the person, but they detach from the moment. In many ways, small talk serves as a protective layer for society. It allows people to interact without revealing too much, to coexist without risking vulnerability. For depth-seeking minds, this layer feels unnecessary, even artificial. They would rather engage in silence than participate in exchanges that neither comfort nor reveal, and this preference is often misinterpreted as aloofness. But silence for them is not avoidance, it is honesty. When a person who dislikes small talk remains quiet, it is because they refuse to pretend. They allow the moment to remain unpolished, real, human. There's also a timeless struggle within such individuals, the tension between craving connection and avoiding superficiality. They do not wish to isolate themselves, yet surface-level interaction does not satisfy them. They wish to belong, yet they feel more connected in solitude than in shallow social rituals. This paradox creates a unique emotional landscape, one where loneliness and authenticity coexist. They do not fear isolation, but they do fear losing themselves in conversations that feel hollow. For them, emotional presence is sacred. The world often misunderstands this preference because society tends to value extroverted patterns of communication, enthusiasm, quick exchanges, easy social flow. But depth-seeking individuals operate in a quieter frequency. Their connections are fewer but profound. Their conversations are slower but meaningful. Their energy is not distributed widely but focused intensely. And because small talk disperses emotional energy without creating connection, such individuals experience it as a drain rather than a bridge. This emotional drain is not imagined. Psychologically, depth-oriented minds engage differently during social interactions. While many people find small talk effortless, depth-seeking individuals process each word through internal reflection. They search for meaning, relevance, and emotional authenticity. When none is found, the mind experiences cognitive dissonance, a tension between what is spoken and what is felt. This tension creates exhaustion. And so, after even brief periods of small talk, they feel worn down, not because the conversation was long, but because it lacked coherence with their inner values. There's also an element of time sensitivity involved. People who dislike small talk often have an acute awareness of emotional time, a sense that life is too short to spend in conversations that do not move the heart or expand understanding. They are not impatient, they are intentional. Each moment carries weight for them, and they instinctively seek experiences that honor that weight. Small talk, however harmless, feels like a pause from living authentically. And so they long for conversations that remind them of the deeper currents of life. Yet there is beauty in this trait. People who dislike small talk often possess a rare emotional clarity. They understand the fragility of connection, the value of truth, and the comfort of genuine openness. They listen with sincerity, speak with purpose, and connect with presence. Their depth is not a burden but a gift, one that enriches every relationship, conversation, and moment that is allowed to unfold naturally. Their discomfort with small talk is not a flaw, but an indicator of how deeply they feel life. In the end, the psychology of those who hate small talk reveals a tender truth. Some hearts are built for depth, some minds are shaped by reflection, some souls need authenticity the way lungs need air. And while the world may not always understand this, these individuals carry within them a quiet wisdom that transforms every meaningful conversation into a place of belonging. Their journey is not about avoiding small talk, but seeking connection that resonates with who they truly are. What emerges is not rejection, but longing, the longing for words that echo, emotions that align, and moments that matter. A longing for conversations that remind them that beneath the noise of daily life, human beings share a common desire for understanding, presence, and truth. This longing is more than a preference. It is a reflection of an internal ecosystem finely tuned to authenticity. It thrives in spaces where thought meets feeling, where curiosity meets honesty, where silence can carry more weight than 1,000 words. Those who dislike small talk do not merely avoid idle chatter, they unconsciously protect the integrity of their inner world. Every exchange is filtered through a lens of significance, and when words fail to meet their internal standard, the soul instinctively withdraws. There is a quiet courage in this, an unspoken refusal to dilute one's own experience for the sake of superficial comfort. The psychology of this avoidance is rooted in perception as much as in emotion. To a depth-oriented mind, small talk often feels like the world insisting that life be flattened into digestible fragments, as though meaning could be divided into pleasantries and pleasantries alone. Such minds resist this compression instinctively. They perceive the layers beneath casual words, the subtle fears, the hidden insecurities, the unspoken hopes, and sense that skipping over these layers erodes the human essence. In a society that often prioritizes efficiency over depth, their insistence on substance is a quiet rebellion, a commitment to the richness of experience. Emotional energy for them is a currency not to be squandered lightly. Each interaction carries potential for either nourishment or depletion. Small talk, while socially functional, rarely replenishes, it only circulates energy superficially. For the depth seeker, this creates a tension between obligation and authenticity. Social norms demand engagement, yet the heart resists engagement without purpose. In this tension, there is often an acute self-awareness, an understanding of when to speak, when to listen, and when to remain quietly present. The moments of withdrawal are not failures of social skill, they are conscious preservation of emotional integrity. Interestingly, there is also an acute sensitivity to authenticity in others. Depth-oriented individuals are adept at sensing the emotional honesty or pretense behind words. This skill, though valuable, can intensify the discomfort small talk produces. While many people navigate shallow exchanges without awareness, the mind attuned to depth perceives the subtle performativity, the social masks, the polite evasions, the habitual repetitions. What is effortless for most becomes exhausting for them, not because they resist human connection, but because they instinctively crave resonance rather than routine. It is often in the quiet aftermath of small talk that such minds reflect most deeply. The mind replays the conversation, dissecting not for judgment but for meaning. What was left unsaid, what was performed rather than felt, what emotions lay hidden beneath the words. In this reflective space, the dislike of small talk is not mere preference but a lens through which the self negotiates engagement with the world. It is both protective and clarifying, a way of navigating human experience with precision, care, and insight. There's also a profound philosophical layer to this tendency. In avoiding superficiality, these individuals are in essence preserving the sacredness of human exchange. They recognize that words once spoken carry weight, not merely as communication but as vessels of presence, vulnerability, and attention. Small talk by design disperses this weight across the trivial. To participate blindly in such dispersal would be in their internal calculus, a diminishment of both self and interaction. They are, in quiet ways, guardians of emotional authenticity, insisting on substance even when society incentivizes convenience. This does not mean they are isolated from joy, humor, or connection. On the contrary, their relationships often carry extraordinary depth precisely because they are selective. The moments they choose to engage are invested with attention, curiosity, and empathy. Laughter, insight, or comfort shared in meaningful conversation resonates far more profoundly for them than any fleeting pleasantry. They approach human interaction like a careful gardener tending rare plants. The energy must be measured, the soil fertile, the conditions right. Anything else risks withering the delicate balance of engagement and reflection. In considering the psychology of those who dislike small talk, one must also acknowledge the cultural dimension. Society often frames conversational ease as a measure of likability or social intelligence. The depth-oriented mind, by contrast, is indifferent to these external metrics. They measure interaction by resonance, coherence, and emotional truth. To a casual observer, this may appear as awkwardness, aloofness, or even social deficiency. In reality, it is a form of emotional literacy, a sophisticated understanding of when words are meaningful, when silence is preferable, and when presence alone suffices. There is, too, an underlying philosophical meditation in the discomfort with small talk, the recognition of impermanence and value. Time is finite, energy is finite, and attention is a precious resource. Those who avoid small talk often carry an implicit awareness of this truth, engaging only when the interaction offers potential for depth. It is not a rigid moral stance, but a quiet acknowledgement that human life is brief, and each encounter, no matter how casual it seems, deserves a measure of intentionality. In this sense, avoidance becomes an act of reverence, a respect for both self and others. Furthermore, the emotional architecture of these minds is such that superficial interactions often highlight contrast. After exposure to shallow conversation, the desire for depth intensifies. Their internal world, rich with observation, thought, and feeling, feels out of sync with the external world's insistence on brevity. The tension is not bitter but poignant, a subtle ache that compels reflection, introspection, and eventual pursuit of meaningful engagement. It is a rhythm that defines both solitude and company, shaping the inner life in ways invisible to casual observers. This rhythm also shapes empathy. Depth-oriented individuals often develop a remarkable capacity to sense emotional nuance. Because they are attuned to subtle shifts in tone, intention, and unspoken thought, they can offer understanding that transcends superficial conversation. The irony is that small talk, which appears socially necessary to some, often interrupts this capacity. When unneeded words dominate, they are forced to filter not just what is spoken, but also what is truly intended, heightening mental fatigue. Yet this very challenge strengthens their ability to perceive authenticity when it appears, making meaningful connections all the more luminous. It is worth noting that the avoidance of small talk is not uniform. Some depth-seeking individuals cultivate the skill of navigating surface-level interactions without compromising internal standards. Others retreat more frequently, conserving energy until the right conditions arise. Both strategies are expressions of the same underlying principle, the prioritization of resonance over routine. What is remarkable is not the presence or absence of participation, but the conscious calibration of emotional investment. Each exchange is measured against an internal compass, attuned not to societal expectation but to personal integrity. Silence in this context assumes a profound significance. For those who dislike small talk, silence is neither emptiness nor discomfort. It is a space where authenticity can germinate. Within silence, the mind reflects, the heart aligns, and the soul rests. It is a pause in which superficial patterns dissolve, leaving only the essential. In fact, many depth-oriented individuals find that silence in social interaction can itself be more communicative than words, an unspoken acknowledgement of presence, a shared understanding, a quiet bridge between inner worlds. To them, small talk interrupts this potential, whereas silence preserves it. The emotional consequences of navigating a world dominated by small talk are subtle but persistent. There is often a quiet fatigue, a sense of misalignment with the prevailing social current. There is a yearning for connection tempered by caution, a readiness for engagement shadowed by the anticipation of shallowness. Yet paradoxically, this tension cultivates resilience, reflection, and self-knowledge. In learning when to engage, when to retreat, and when to remain silently present, these individuals develop a deep, nuanced understanding of their own emotional boundaries and capacities. Small talk, in its absence or limitation, becomes a mirror reflecting their own values and desires. Philosophically, there is a lesson in this avoidance that transcends social preference. Human beings are not uniform in their need for connection, expression, or engagement. Depth-seeking minds remind us that authenticity is a valid compass, even when it diverges from societal norms. They highlight the subtle artistry in choosing not to participate in superficial exchanges, demonstrating that integrity often requires restraint as much as action. Their approach to interaction is contemplative, intentional, and ultimately human, a testament to the richness of interior life that quietly persists beneath the surface of social expectation. And yet in this quiet contemplation, there is a profound recognition of human longing. Avoidance of small talk does not imply indifference toward others. It is instead an acknowledgement of the sacredness of presence. The desire for resonance, clarity, and meaning does not diminish empathy, it sharpens it. By choosing engagement carefully, the depth-oriented mind creates the conditions for connection that are both rare and profound. Every word spoken, every moment shared carries weight, significance, and the potential to touch both self and other. In this, there is subtle wisdom. Authenticity preserves value. Ultimately, the psychology of those who dislike small talk is a meditation on attention, energy, and meaning. It is a quiet declaration that human life is too intricate to be reduced to habitual patterns of conversation. It is an insistence that words, when chosen thoughtfully, can honor the depth of experience rather than merely fill silence. It is a recognition that true connection requires patience, reflection, and courage. Courage to speak only when the words matter, and courage to remain present even when silence prevails. In navigating these choices, these individuals reveal the quiet, enduring beauty of intentional living. There is a serenity that accompanies this selective engagement. Those who resist small talk often discover that their relationships, when cultivated intentionally, carry a profound richness. Conversations, stripped of performative layers, become vessels of authenticity. Emotions are recognized and honored. Insight is shared freely, and presence is offered without pretense. In these rare exchanges, depth-seeking individuals experience a resonance that validates their approach, a quiet affirmation that authenticity, even in a world dominated by the superficial, remains possible. The world may demand triviality, but within these spaces of genuine connection, meaning thrives. In the final reflection, it becomes clear that disliking small talk is not an obstacle but a lens, a perspective that shapes how one experiences connection, energy, and time. It is an instinctive calibration of internal rhythm to external interaction. It is a subtle form of wisdom, cultivated not through instruction but through attentive living. It reminds us that human experience is layered, that not all engagement is equal, and that the preservation of authenticity is an act of self-respect and reverence. In honoring this, the depth-oriented mind navigates life with a quiet, profound attentiveness, ever seeking the resonance that transforms mere words into human understanding. And so, beneath the casual chatter of daily life, there exists a silent undercurrent, the pulse of minds that measure meaning above all else, who protect their emotional energy, who listen for authenticity in a sea of pretense. To them, the world is not a series of greetings, but a tapestry of subtle truths, each moment an opportunity to connect, to reflect, and to honor the depth of human existence. The world may not always understand them, but in their selective engagement lies a quiet mastery of presence, a tender acknowledgement that every conversation, every pause, and every silence carries the potential to resonate far beyond the spoken word. This is the psychology of those who hate small talk, not a rejection of human interaction, but a devotion to emotional integrity, a pursuit of resonance, and a quiet devotion to the richness of life that lies beneath the surface of words.